The first question is, I don't get why anarcho-capitalists and libertarians are criticizing Israel in its battle with Hamas. And there's two different factors. One, like, why focus on, I think to some extent it's US government support for Israel. It's like, well, the US government spends over $1 trillion a year supporting all kinds of things around the world. Why focus on Israel? Is it because you're getting engagement because that's the hot topic? Nobody talks about China occupying Tibet. Nobody talks about what the Saudis are doing in Yemen, right? Nobody talks about what Bashar Assad did to his own people. For some reason, it only becomes a flashpoint when it's Israel. And so that's point number one, is why the focus on Israel as opposed to all the other conflicts around the world. And the other thing is, I feel like libertarians against Israel is like queers for Palestine, right? I'm not saying that Israel is a libertarian state. I'm just saying they're a hell of a lot more libertarian than any Arab government. And maybe you can find an exception for me. I'm not aware of one. So
Me either.
can you address those? Why is it that I'm seeing Mises and Clint and several other libertarian voices? And I just be clear, I'm not pro-Israel in the sense I don't think the United States should give Israel money. I
Mhm.
don't think the United States should have troops all over the world. I don't think we should give any, but I don't think we should say, gosh, we give, $100 billion a year to foreign countries. Let's stop giving the 4 billion a year to Israel, right? We should stop giving $100 billion a year to anybody.
I
But
agree.
I feel like the way it comes out of the voice, the libertarian voices, is it comes across as anti-Israel rather than being anti-foreign aid, rather than
Mhm.
being anti-interventionism. So can you just sort of give me your perspective on what's going on in Israel, what's going on with Hamas, and why is it that libertarian voices seem to be sounding particularly anti-Israel at this moment?
So far as what we focus on, what we don't focus on, I definitely have focused on the the Yemen problem. I mean, they are Yemenis, but the Yemen problem, I've definitely talked about that in the past. I've definitely, I mean, I guess I probably haven't talked so much about China. I don't know. At the end of the day, for me, I don't overly think about it. I just kind of whatever I'm interested in, I follow. Anyone who pays attention to my show can see that I kind of like I don't have an overly defined show. I just kind of whatever is my whim that I want to. I'm interested at the time. This kind of caught my ear. I was kind of interested in it. I was like, yeah, well, this is a good time to start digging into it. I also think, like, in some senses, this thing is complicated when you get down to the details, like this deal, that deal, whatever. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's actually pretty simple if you boil it down to first principles. Okay, what was the second question? There was a second. Oh, why we're kind of coming off anti-Israel. For me, I have no problem saying I'm anti-Israel. I will caveat that there's a little bit of a disclaimer there. I guess it's a little bit off because I'm anti all states. So I'm anti China. I'm anti that. I'm not anti Chinese. I'm not anti Israelis. I'm anti the government. I'm anti the state. And I think Israel and the USA and China and Russia, like some of these bigger actors, are some of the worst offenders when it comes to this stuff. Obviously, we can look at Arab countries, and a lot of them are going to have domestic policies that we think are way worse. But I mean, most of this is probably applies to like foreign policy or how they interact with the other world. I mean, if you look at Mossad's pretty. I mean, if anyone's followed the breadcrumbs of the, I don't claim to be an expert in that. It looks like there's Mossad connections, so it looks like there's influence there. There's influence money, and like I said, you've said they apply. We give money to a lot of people. We give more to Israel than we do a lot of other countries. So there's a little bit more undue influence in some senses. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I feel like, I'm not saying you're doing this, but a lot of times people bring up these points. I feel like it's a little bit of obfuscation. Like, okay, whatever. Like, it's like the idea of like, why are you interested in this? I don't know. I am. I mean, like, why? That's kind of almost not relevant. We're here. We are talking about it. I will say, I will give, because I know the right, generally speaking, I'm in a weird predicament here because generally speaking, I tend to kind of align more with the right culturally, and a lot of, especially in modern day, libertarianism and the right have seemed to be pretty simpatico. But when it came to this, there was a little bit of a rocky. But I'm in a weird situation because yes, people do always point out, like, look at these lefties, look at them just, and like, yeah, you're right, they're idiots. I don't know what to say. Like, yes, they are kind of reflexively just, this thing's bad. And yeah, and some of this does come down to their critical theory, or their, when it comes down to oppressor versus oppressed. But I don't necessarily have a problem with the class theory in general. I just have a problem with their class theory. I mean, when it comes to my class theory, it comes down to producers and predators. So the people who produce and then people who take away from us, whether that be criminals, governments, etc. So I look at it more from that perspective. And I also generally try to throw out the state thing, because when we come down to like Israel versus Gaza or whatever, or Palestine, at the end of the day, I don't even care what the state is called at the end of the day, whether it's 2 states, 0 states, 1 state. I just want there to be something as close as we can get to some sort of private property system, because I think that's going to be the most peaceful situation we can end up with.